Hey guys, and welcome to Geared On For What. I made a mistake. You see, in my last video, I was testing how much torque 3D printed gearboxes could apply to this scale, but I never tested the scale. And as it turns out, this scale was wrong, and all of my results could easily be 100% wrong, or at least very, very skewed. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about mistakes. I'm just kidding. That would be extremely boring. Why would we talk about mistakes? Let's talk about how we're going to fix them. So if you guys seen my last video, you know the reason I'm doing this is because I want to build a new robotics project. I want to verify some things. I want to find a gearbox that would work really good for that. That's really efficient, has very little backlash, handles a lot of torque. Now I'm asking for a Goldilocks situation, but I'm going to just try to get as close as I can. So after I got my results from my last video, I was trying to figure out what was going on, and I started thinking outside the gearbox, what other variables were there in that test? Well, there is this arm with this bearing channel. Could that be binding? Well, I don't think so. It would have to be something else, and the only variables that are left are this motor and this scale. The motor seems like it would be decently hard to test, so I decided to test this scale. And that's when I discovered that this load cell plate was in contact with the plastic frame. Placing a test weight on this scale would not achieve repeatable results, and testing each corner revealed even more problems. So I decided to go ahead and reposition this plate off camera. Now there is clearance all the way around on all four sides. Now I'll go ahead and prove the accuracy of this scale. Now that we have a verified accurate scale, it's time to redo the testing that I did in the last video, but I'm also going to add more variables this time. I'll be controlling the Arduino with a PlayStation controller. I've also got a few more gearboxes to test. So in the last video I tested a gearbox that looked like this. Now I basically extended that and added a third module. I've also got a shorter version of that 2 module, which is just half the size. So we're also going to test this to see if this has the same or less efficiency than a 2 module version of this. And then we've also got the original 66.46 to 1 gearbox to test. This is the exact same thing that's used in the robotic arm project. We're going to see how efficient that one is. And then for a control, we're going to do a gearbox slug. So this will attach directly from the motor to the arm and tell us how much torque this motor is outputting. So, I'm really sorry for this weird camera angle that you guys got, but otherwise the glare, you can't see the screen on anything. I went ahead and set up the Xbox controller so one push of this button causes one step in the clockwise direction, and this button causes one step in the counterclockwise direction. I'm going to go ahead and apologize to Europeans out there, because today we're going to be using imperial units, or pounds, ounces, and inches, because that's what I like. So first thing we got to do is I'm going to put this gearbox slug in there. We'll test how much torque this motor has at 24 volts. So we're at 0 pounds, 8, 9, 10, 12 ounces, and skipped. The scale went ahead and locked. 1.8. I'm going to go ahead and enter that into my new table. So I'm going to start by inserting this smaller gearbox in here. We'll start testing this one first. So like I said, this one has to go in a lot further than the rest of them because these rings are twice as wide. So this gear set is one designed by Ross Korsky. It is in the form factor he designed it in. It's a shorter version of this one, and first we're going to test it without any lubrication, and then I'm going to try putting some in. So let's go down. £10. Back down to 9. And yay for the scale for locking again. 10 pounds it is. Scale zeroed out. Let's test the same gearbox, same voltage, just added some lubrication. so this is the next one that we're going to be testing, and this is just the original version of this. So this one was designed by Ross Korsky, and it actually has this pitch diameter circle on the end of the gears. It has it in the middle of the ring gear, and it has it on the inside of the ring gears. It also has it on the front here, but this one doesn't have that anywhere. So these two are exactly the same thing, except for that and the fact that these planet gears are longer than they should be, but they're not touching anything past this ring here, so they're not being functional beyond that point. So let's put this one in the test jig and try it out. The other thing that this one has going for it, I have to admit, is that it's a really loose fit compared to this one. It's hard to control factors like fitment when you're 3D printing stuff. I'll admit that this one could show a lot better than it would be in comparison to that one, just because of that factor. Also, note how much more backlash this one has. This isn't a fair comparison. 8 pounds, 9 pounds, oh, and it skipped. Alright, I'm gonna call that 9 pounds. Okay, so now I'm gonna test the same gear set, but I'm gonna replace this sun gear that is only this long with one that's a double sun gear, so it'll contact the first and the third module. I will not put a ring gear on the third module, and the fourth module gears will be unused, so the last 10mm section of this won't even be in play. Okay, so I've got the gearbox installed. 7 pounds, 8 pounds, 9 pounds, 10 pounds, 11 pounds, 12 pounds, 12 pounds, 13 pounds, 13 pounds, and the scale locked on me. 13 pounds, 10 ounces, we'll call it that. So, new result, we've got a 27.3% efficiency on this one. That's very, very interesting that interconnected sun does that much. It would also be very, very interesting to add the third module ring gear, which I can't do with this setup, otherwise I would, and see if that helps too, because I think what that's doing is that's keeping the planet gears parallel to the sun. Now I'm going to test this this newer design of the 66.46:1 with a third module on it, but this version has 3 separate sun gears, so I'm driving this one, and the other 2 sun gears are just idlers. So I'm going to support this from this ring gear, will be attached to the frame, won't move, and then also the third module ring gear will be attached to this stand, and that won't move. And that should also help to keep the planet gears parallel with the sun gear. After that, I'm going to test it with just this longer sun gear that's a one-piece sun gear without the third ring gear, and then I'll add that third ring gear on and test it with that third ring gear and this mount again. So let's get started with that. Before I get to actually testing this one, I'm going to wear it in a little bit by spinning it. So I'll just be doing this for a little while. 13 pounds, 14 pounds, oh boy, 15 pounds, 16 pounds, 17 pounds, 18 pounds, 19 pounds, 20 pounds. I'm sure you guys are wondering why I don't go really slowly towards the end, and I want to point out that the reason is because my scale will go to this nice lock mode where it just decides to stop telling me when there's more weight on the scale. So this test is going to be with the 20mm long modules, no ring gear on third module, but a 3 module long sun gear. So 14, 15, 16. There, it skipped at 16. 16 pounds. I saw 16 pounds, 5 ounces. Okay, so for this one, we went from 40% efficiency down to 32%. So now, adding this ring gear should bring us back up to at least that 40, unless we're getting to the point where maybe what could be happening is that middle sun needs to be supporting the middle of the planets. Pounds, 17 pounds, 18 pounds, 19 pounds, 20 pounds, 21 pounds, Oh, there it skipped. I'm gonna call it 21 pounds. Okay, so let's talk about these results a little bit. So for the motor by itself, I got a pressure of 12 ounces, which gives me an efficiency of 100% after the motor, which makes sense because I'm not calculating motor efficiency. So let's start with this one. This is the first gear set that we tested. This one got an efficiency of 20%, which is, I think, pretty bad, but still workable. From there, we went on and tested one that's pretty much the same thing, except it doesn't have a feature that this one has, and we got an efficiency figure of 18%, and that was with this other sun gear installed, and this sun gear only contacts the first module, and there was an idler sun gear under the second module. Then I went in and added this sun gear that contacts the first and third module, and the efficiency went from 18% up to 27%. Then we tested this one, and in this test, it had 3 separate sun gears installed in it. The first one being the drive sun, and the other 2 just being idler sun gears. And for efficiency on this one, with 3 separate sun gears, we got 40%. Then I went and installed a one-piece sun gear in here that's all one piece and doesn't contact the second module, and removed the third ring gear. And efficiency went down to 32%, but it could still be useful in this setup. So then I went ahead and added this third ring gear back on, and efficiency went up to 42%. So it's very obvious to me now that a one-piece sun gear is beneficial. So with that information, let's go over what I learned. So I learned that adding this pitch diameter circle to the gears is really helpful when you don't have a carrier. It holds the planets better centered. It's a really good idea, and I think I will be doing this more in future gear sets that I design. We also learned that supporting the third module with the sun gear is beneficial, but it's more beneficial to support it with the ring gear, and it's even more beneficial to support it with both the sun gear and the ring gear. So you'll notice the best efficiency figure that we got is with the interconnected sun and the ring gear that was attached to the plywood. Now, that doesn't surprise me. That's really what I expected, because I think with this design, removing the carrier, the biggest problem that you have to deal with is keeping the planets parallel to the sun. So this result doesn't surprise me, but it is very nice to know how important this is. It would be really interesting to take this design and install a carrier on it and put the bearings in it that it should have and see how efficient it is then. I think the efficiency figure would be up maybe towards 50 at that point. But it's impossible to know without actually trying it. So if you have any questions or suggestions for me, leave a comment below. And if you'd like to help my gearbox testing reach a broader audience, then hit that like button and share this video with your friends. Hey, thanks for watching.